was just one of those things that was just so perplexing. It just didn't seem possible that travel could be halted and business perspective reversed effectively because we were refunding and just this unknown of when we could actually trade again. And so it was literally fight or flight. It was going straight into the instinct, straight into, for me, survival mode. What can I do with what we've got, which wasn't much because the borders were closed?
Yeah. Welcome back to Marketing Made Iconic, where we explore the stories of visionary founders reimagining the future of travel and tourism. Today's guest is Lisa Pagotto, the powerhouse finder behind Crooked Compass and Crooked Compass by Air. Lisa is known for redefining exploration both on the ground and in the sky. When the world shut down in 2020 and the travel industry was brought to its knees, Lisa turned crisis into creativity. From visiting empty airport terminals to learning to fly, she transformed personal resilience into a brand new aviation-based tourism business, connecting travellers with Australia's most remote and luxurious landscapes. Through Crooked Compass and Crooked Compass by Air, Lisa continues to challenge convention, showing that purpose, presence, and people will always be the true heartbeat of travel. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for chatting with me today.
Hi, thanks, Alicia. Good to be here.
So, Lisa, I want to sort of start going back a little bit into your story, which I find really fascinating. Through the pandemic, it wasn't just about surviving the shutdown. It was about rewriting what was possible. And when travel stopped in 2020, what was going through your mind?
I guess one word, survival. It was just one of those things that was just so perplexing. It just didn't seem possible that travel could be halted and from a business perspective reversed effectively because we were refunding and just this unknown of when we could actually trade again. And so it was literally fight or flight. It was going straight into those instincts, straight into, for me, survival mode. What can I do with what we've got, which wasn't much because the borders were closed?
Yeah. Take us through those early moments that led to the idea of Crooked Compass by Air.
Yeah, so it was like a bit of a staged approach, but not intentionally at all. You know, when we first started hearing about this bat flu and we didn't really have a lot of context or information as to what was really happening, we were, that will just impact our China departures. That's okay. We can function without China. Then it became, this is going to impact our entire Asian season. Yep, that's okay. We can still work with Middle East, Europe, South America, Africa. That's all right. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And we were just constantly going, oh my God, who do we cancel next? And it got to the point where obviously our borders closed, and being an international tour brand, we had nothing. We had nothing. And we were, interestingly, just pure coincidence, we were actually building domestic product for Crooked Compass at the time. We were seeing more and more Americans coming through in our tours. And one of my team used to be a tour leader for an American tour company bringing Americans to Australia. And she said to me, could we look at introducing Australia into our portfolio? And I was like, it's just not a thing. Like, it's just not exotic compared to our Omans and our Papua New Guineas and our Mongolias. But yeah, I'm happy to give you the project. And if you can put something together and pitch it to me, I'm very happy to listen because I'm not always right. And so off she went. She took this little project and she came back with a range of around, I think there was 9 small group tours. And they were amazing. They were all very much outside the box, very unique. And so we had actually started building that before the pandemic happened. And so we were in an unfortunate but fortunate situation where we were almost at the end of contracting all of that product, getting it ready to go live. And so it took us 6 weeks from when our borders shut to actually going live with this new portfolio of Australian-based tours. And that we were first to market with the pivot that everybody had to do. And what we had was so different than everybody else had. And so that was the first step. And then as we had more challenges with state borders closing and JobKeeper finishing, I had to let go of my team. And so it went back to being just me. And I thought, yes, we can survive on these domestic small group tours. This is enough. We can do this for a year or two if we have to. We can work with this. And so I thought, okay, we're in a really lucky position. We can survive. I can keep some of my team. But once those state borders started closing, it was a whole other ball game again. And I was just going, oh my God, what else can I do? What can I do? And I couldn't find anything. Everything was just gone. Everything was taken away from me. All my creativity, my spunk for doing things outside the box, just flat because it was just one barrier after another. And I'm used to jumping on a plane every 2 weeks and going somewhere, whether it's interstate or overseas, and that had been taken away. And my plane time is my creative time. That's when no one can call me, no one can email me, and my brain just ticks and thinks, what can I bring? What can I offer? What can I create? And I didn't have that creative time. Everything was just, oh my God, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And so I knew I had to change my mindset. I knew I had to get out of this kind of monkey brain and get into that creative space again. And I just didn't know how to do it. And so I thought, what's
Get on a
something
plane somehow.
what's something that I can just do for me? Something that will just make me feel like me again, just do something to nudge me back into my what. And so I used to just drive. I used to just drive to little regional airports, went up to Newcastle, went to a couple of others, Cessna, and instead of being stuck at home working in my home office, and I didn't work from home back then, so even that was foreign. And I'll go and work from a little airport. That's getting out of the house. It's going to somewhere that is normally exciting. And I was at one of these little regional airports and I saw a flyer that said, learn to fly. And that was I wonder if I could learn to fly a plane. Is that crazy? That's a really exciting hobby when I have no income and JobKeeper's finished. But it's what I did. I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. I need to keep my sanity. I need to keep my brain busy, and I've just got nothing else. I just need something. And so I started to learn to fly, and all of a sudden this world of private aviation just opened up in front of me. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of grounded aircraft, and some of these regional airports and private airstrips and grass strips, they can still operate, even though the big commercial airports were not. What is there? There's got to be something in this. There has to be something. And I just kept pushing and thinking and just learning and understanding how that space worked. And there were other tour companies that had seen a similar opportunity, but they were doing like group buy-ons where they would charter the plane and it would just be randoms booking in. I thought, no, that's too high risk in this environment. Like if you've hired a plane, you need at least 15 people to cover that cost. If you've got 2 people, it's still going to get cancelled and it doesn't help the situation. And so I thought, I'll do it different. I'll do private only. And we can do everything from little 2-seater planes through to 400 seats or whatever. And so that's what we did. I launched Crooked Compass by Air, and it was private, still is private touring around Australia, but focusing on those really remote reaches that were just beyond what commercial flights can.
That's a pretty cool story. So obviously maybe not obviously, but did this flying the experiment like really light you up?
It did. It made me feel like I had a purpose again. It gave me something to focus on. And I'm not the kind of person that's very good at sitting around doing nothing. I can't lie on a beach and read a book all day. It's just not me. And same sort of thing. Other people were like, oh, you can have a break from work. And obviously it was very stressful. It was the first time that you actually had a forced pause. But for me, it was more about, that's not how I'm wired. I'm wired to be stimulated and to keep learning and to be curious. And so that flying absolutely filled that bucket when everything else had been stripped away.
Yeah, amazing. And what do you think you took away from that whole experience in terms of your creativity, the leadership, lessons? Was it like one of those situations where you went, I'm giving myself this thing, and actually I now have brain space for what I needed to unlock?
Yeah, in a way, it was about I need to give myself space. And but space by doing something that stimulates me. That's where my creativity kind of clicks on. And mentioned about creativity and leadership and that sort of thing. And it's not until you stop and think about it, but there's such a crossover with both. When you're learning to fly a plane, the number one thing you're taught is situational awareness and how you cannot control everything, but you prepare for how you can respond to things that go wrong. And that's so true as well. And then decision making under pressure is, again, it's a balance of what you're trained in, what you've got experience in, and then just instinct as well, and trusting that gut. And I guess further to that, composure. When you really break it down, like there's so many synergies between flying a plane and running a business. But I know everyone can fly, but for me, it was that freedom and that inspiration, being able to fuel that creativity in my mindset, and just actually having the courage to back myself, going, yeah, there's got to be something here. There's got to be something here. What is it? What is it? And that freedom, that space just gave me that capacity to be able to, let's just give it a go. Literally have nothing to lose. So
Yeah. The rest is history, so they say.
Exactly.
Now, Crooked Compass isn't the average tour company. It's a bit of a movement for those who've been there, done that, and are seeking something much deeper. You're curating travel in meaning that's designed for Australians who are well-travelled but still insatiably curious. What's different about the type of traveller Crooked Compass appeals to?
So our travellers, I could confidently say that they are people who are very well travelled and been there, done that. They're looking for that what's new and what's next. So they also have that sort of insatiable curiosity about them. They're hungry to learn. Like they're not the type of people that just want to snap a picture and say, yep, I've been there. Like they really get under the skin of a destination. They really want to be moved and shifted by the experiences that they have with us. And that's why they keep coming back. They're not surface level travelers. They're not people who are easily swayed by what they see in the mainstream media. They really want to push boundaries themselves by choice to get uncomfortable so that they can learn and that they can be, as we say, perspective shifting. So they can be shifted in their perspectives, in their opinions, in their ideas of other cultures and ways of life.
Yeah. And immersing in those different, unique experiences, like saying going that little bit deeper. Like I know you have a lot of very specific experiences that form part of, for those that have ticked off the bucket list, what are they really craving now in a travel experience?
I guess the easiest way to answer that from what we see is two things. It's depth and it's belonging, connection. Yeah, travel's changed. It's not about transaction anymore. It's about transformation. And I do honestly believe that the pandemic was a big catalyst in that shift. It really allowed people to reassess how and why they travel. And we are just sitting in that spot for people who are looking for more meaningful travel, and not necessarily from a selfish perspective, but from a broader life shifting, looking at other people's perspectives, other people's ways of life, other cultures, just that broadening of the mind that we see our travelers crave.
And I think that's even though, you're thinking specifically about those who've been there, done that, and a lot of things before and doing something new and unique and going deeper. I think even more broadly, travelers coming out of the pandemic in the last few years, actually wanting that experience. They want to be immersed. They want that transformation across the board, not just that transaction. So I think the tourism businesses, travel businesses all over Australia and the world, that should be top of mind right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's so much more about just seeing a destination. It's about feeling a destination and embracing the unknown, allowing that. I know space is a bit of a cliche word at the moment, but literally allowing that space for those like spontaneous experiences and not having everything so scripted and structured.
Yeah. But then I think it's a very clever curation of yours, like being that tour leader or the person that's creating that experience, to find that balance of this feels organic or this feels like I'm on a discovery journey, but in fact, you've created it specially for people to go through that movement on that journey.
Yeah, like the way that we build our tours, it's all about like co-creation.
Yeah.
You have here initially, but it's also we want to bring, of course, the communities along for the journey that we're wanting to engage with. But at the same time, we also want to bring our guests along. So it's like a bit of a triangle. And everybody working together is how we deliver or design the types of journeys that we create.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to throw the L word in there, luxury, which as we know, means different things to different people. But talk to us about this, because how do you balance luxury and authenticity in your sometimes remote tours and culturally immersive adventures?
Yes, they can work beautifully together, but they also can also be very siloed and stand apart. For us, when I'm building our Crooked Compass journeys, the baseline of it is about access and the depth of the experience. Just to give you an example, like we stay with a very remote and diminishing tribe in the far north of Mongolia, reindeer tribe. And for us, that is the luxury, the privilege of getting to go and stay with a culture that's not going to be around much longer, not looking at the gold embroidery on your hotel robe or on your pillowcase sort of thing. When we're talking to our guests and we're talking about what luxury means to them, it's about time and intention as being the new indulgences, as opposed to white glove butler service or having your luggage carried. And again, luxury means different things to different people. For us, the way that we integrate, as you say, both of that authenticity and that luxury is very layered. So during the day, we're really focused on your outside the box, unique, in-depth cultural experiences, but then coming back to comfort at night where possible.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that the balance of the two, it leads to a bit of an emotional equation, which I often say is that true luxury, and again, this is in the context of Crooked Compass, luxury lies in feeling safe enough to be uncomfortable.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's my little umbrella that I pop over our brand.
Yeah. And I'm feeling as you're talking, the sense of belonging and connection that is actually transformative, because you're having an experience you haven't had before. You're being exposed to different cultures you haven't seen before, like your example, the reindeer tribe. That actually is probably richer, more luxurious for someone to take away from an experience they can have in their life. I think it's very special. Also, I haven't been on one of your tours, but yeah.
Then I soon.
You
Really-
welcome me. Now, Crooked Compass has always stood for something different. The curiosity, cultural immersion we've talked about, and authenticity, long before they even became buzzwords. What was the original vision behind Crooked Compass, and how has it evolved?
Yeah, that's really interesting because it has and it hasn't evolved. So the Good Compass is 12 years old now. And when I originally started the business in 2014, it was always about perspective shifting, which I've mentioned quite a few times already, and education. So using travel as a tool to educate people about the lesser known side of our planet. And that is still bone of every single thing that we do. It's something that I do reflect on quite often, and I reflect on it every year when we review all of our product and recontract it and change tours or cancel tours or build new product. In terms of where it has evolved, I like the word evolved in terms of as opposed to shifted, because it has been an evolution. And what that has looked like from our perspective is that it has created a deeper purpose for why we exist. So much about what we did has always been about curiosity, and that is still absolutely at the forefront of what we do. But because of the response and that clientele that keep coming back because they love what we do, it's now shifting not more from curiosity, but it's also shifting towards responsibility. One that it's like depth to what we're delivering and creating for our guests, but also inclusivity. And inclusivity not just for our guests, but for the communities that we're engaging with, and ensuring that the two of them complement each other perfectly.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I know you've built a reputation on curating experiences that go beyond the obvious. Um, how do you balance authenticity with accessibility?
I think that depends on the tour, the destination, the culture, and what the purpose of that journey is. A lot of what we do, you're right, is quite remote, but it's not intentional. It's just the nature of what we're exploring and what we're wanting to deliver. So if we remove
Mhm.
remote or not look at that as a key draw card, for us, it's more about like when we're talking about authenticity, it's more about the truth. So ensuring, like for us, authenticity is ensuring that it's mutual between us, the client, and community or the tribe or the region that we're visiting.
Yeah,
And get that balance takes a fair bit of practice. And it's not a black and white process that can be just templated across everything that we create. Every single
yeah.
journey that we design has that bridge to connect those two together. And that takes time to build. And I think in terms of like really understanding where authenticity truly thrives, it's that balance where curiosity meets that understanding. To me, that's where the authenticity really shines through at its strongest.
And I feel like you're a bit of a walking encyclopedia of these untouched, unknown kind of areas. So you just seem to rattle off the most detailed information about the most unknown faces. And wrap it up for us. How do both your brands, Crooked Compass and Crooked Compass by Air, reflect your personal philosophy on travel?
My my personal philosophy is that travel should both challenge you and change you. And
Mm.
I definitely believe that we have that woven through both businesses. Travel for me is not about escape. It's about connection and it's about awakening your perspective. Challenging travel is to step outside of comfort and convention. And at the same time, ensuring that they're being provided with an enriching experience that's bringing more depth to their life whilst they're experiencing it.
Yeah, love that. I'm excited to chat with you about your time speaking at the, how do you say it, Tata 25,
And yeah,
the Tata 25 conference. You spoke about how the industry is flattening and that playing safe isn't working anymore. What do you think has caused that stagnation and what do you think needs to change?
I think the stagnations come from a resistance to change, in all honesty. The
Mm.
industry shifted so much very quickly in the past couple of years, really since borders have reopened. And it's always easier to do what you've always done, but that doesn't mean that's what the market wants anymore. So I think
Yeah.
those who are not adapting to the shifting market is really where that stagnation is coming in. And people are
Mm.
losing that human touch and that human connection that makes travel so special. And today I spoke about travel is one of the three luxuries that people save a lot of money for. Usually it's a house, a car, and a holiday. They're your three big things that you just want to get right or to have your dream version of. And
Yeah.
you remove that human touch and it becomes transactional. It just it's just icky now. It's just not what travel is about anymore. And that's where that stagnation is. Like everybody is so busy since our borders have reopened because we had that privilege taken away from us for 2.5 years. And so now it's just, I've got to go. I've got to make up for time. I've got all these credits still to burn. And so for the people who are selling travel, they don't necessarily have the bandwidth to be able to sit down and have those heart to heart conversations to understand why are you traveling here? Who are you traveling with? To get that human perspective or connection as to the why they're traveling. And that is missing big time in our industry.
Mm. And I know you've been very outspoken about moving beyond price driven selling, traveling. What does that look like in practice?
I guess it's further alludes to what I was just saying. So it's about
Mm.
reframing the conversation and not using price as the story and talking about purpose. Why are you traveling with your family? Is it because you're a high flying corporate exec and you don't get any family time during the year? And so all you want is downtime with the family? Is it because you're traveling with your sister and she's just busted up from her husband and she needs a girls' trip? All those sorts of shit, how you choose what you're going to present to your client. And that
Right.
follows that, the phrase that I just mentioned about shifting from transactional to transformational. And I think the other big thing that our industry still gets stuck on is that they seem to think that everybody is about price. And not everybody is. And maybe that's because we don't play in the discounting space, maybe on a little bit from that. But I honestly feel like it's more about education over discounting and focusing on alignment. Like what is alignment for what the client actually wants as opposed to affordability? Obviously, there has to be a balance. But in terms of what structure your conversation, education, flex your muscle, show your expertise. This is why they're sitting in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you've experienced it personally, but I can just picture like you're in a unique position being a tour company where you're actually creating tours and itineraries and having conversations with people where they might be having aha moments where it makes the price like not really matter.
Yep, it is. And that's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you do.
I was just going to say, and that's what's missing. And that's the value button. That is really, from a travel advisor or anybody that's selling travel, that is where you beat the AI that's now building itineraries. You beat Google. That personal touch, that firsthand experience, like nothing can trump that.
We've been talking about amongst my team about AI and where it's going to go in the travel space. And I've talked to other people about this before and think that it's going to come full circle. Like everyone's needing to jump on the AI bandwagon or it's accidentally immersing itself into people's everyday lives. But at some point, people are going to crave that human connection and that human touch, which is, like you say, where the value lies.
Yeah.
And I think this is important for lots of smaller regional brands as well that are delivering on the end journey that people are having. It's a very important consideration for them too, to think about the experience and the transformation that they're bringing people through too.
Yeah. And the consumer is far more educated than they ever have been because of the time that we had where no one could travel. Everybody researched far more than they probably normally would. And now with AI, everything's available at your fingertips. And so you need to have that point of difference. And that human touch is that point of difference because no robotic brain can deliver that.
Yeah. And so how do you think we build that deeper connection between suppliers, advisors, and travelers?
I think it's collaboration. And as simple as that sounds, our industry is really siloed. You have your consumer who will either go to their travel agent, they'll go online, or they'll go direct to a tour company, for example. Travel agents don't like it when clients go direct to a tour company. We didn't tell them to do it. They're just coming to us because they know we can answer their questions. We can give them that human touch. And there's this vicious cycle that keeps everybody in their silos, and it's a really difficult one to bust. We all have the same intention, and that is to create meaningful and ethical and enriching journeys. But it's like there's this fear, or I'm not really sure what the true barrier is, but if people can remove, we're not going to steal your clients. We're here to help you. You guys get the sale. We get the sale. It's about education and collaboration. And knowledge builds trust. And this is one thing that I do say quite often, especially with our brand. Like, given what we do, we are very aware that a travel advisor is not going to get an inquiry for the type of thing that we do every day. They might be lucky if they got one to a year. And so there is absolutely no way that they can have the in-depth knowledge about our style and our destinations the way that we do, because it's what we talk every single day. And I'm constantly saying to travel advisors when I'm doing training with them, please lean on us. Let us make you look great. Let's all jump on a call together, you, me, and your client. I'm not going to take your client. I'm going to make you look great. Let's do this together. And most of them are starting to get it, but there's still so many that just are just not okay with this. And you're not going to get the sale if you're not going to trust the people who are actually the ones delivering the end product. And the future of travel, it's not about scale. It's not about getting that next booking and how many heads can I pump through the books this month. It's all about substance. And brands like us right on that forefront. And we are here. We've got so
Yeah.
much to give you guys in terms of substance to help you educate that client and to know that this is the right choice for them.
That's so refreshing, but I think that would scare a lot of people and probably scare most. Then you also spoke at ITB Asia recently as well about the future of travel belonging to those who act with care, lead with intention, and refuse to chase scale, like you just said.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about presence-based design and how do you apply it?
We touched on this a little bit earlier on, just in terms about when we're actually designing our product. So for
Yeah.
me, all about being in tune with people. And when I say people, not only our clients, but the people who we are engaging with on the ground in destination. Of course, being
Yeah.
in the place, but overall the purpose of why we're building this journey. And for me, that is far more important than building a product based off trends and data. Otherwise, we'd all be doing Instagram tours to Bali. And
True.
it's just about being really true to why you exist and why you build your product and just keeping that front of mind when you are designing. Not because everybody's saying that XYZ is going to be the next destination, so we should build product there. If your people are not asking for it, if you don't have the right contact, and if you don't have a true purpose as to why you should be operating there, it's not going to work. And this includes, we're always very active on the ground, and particularly if I'm hosting any of our tours, in listening to our community and asking questions around, what do you guys want from us? What have you loved with us? What can we do better? What have you done with us that wasn't quite so great? And we really take that constructive feedback on board when we're evaluating, reviewing, rebuilding, or creating for the first time. It always comes back to, who are we as a brand and what do we stand for? And is what we're building in line with that?
I think that, yeah, that's a missing piece that a lot of founders miss in terms of, yeah, we can listen to qualitative feedback, which is not quantitative. So it's from a couple as opposed to a few hundred. And some of it's relevant, some of it isn't. But in all cases, it's got to relate back to your mission and vision as a brand, because that's really what's driving you. And personally, it's the passion that's behind it all. For you, what role does intuition play, both as a founder and a creator of experiences?
I love intuition. I am one of those people that loves learning everything about gut feel and following your gut and why gut feel has that. Why is it called gut feel, and understanding the link between the brain and gut. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And so I am probably one of those people that leans into intuition more so than a lot of other people that I have, even in the founder space. I would like to confidently say, I think I'd be fairly confident saying this, that I think that it is probably my quietest but yet most reliable advisor. It really helps me navigate things when there's uncertainty and when things look more logistically sound on paper. Me, I am always about trust your gut, trust your gut. When you get into that head and heart tug, trust your gut. Because to me, it's a sense of what actually wants to emerge. And it's not wrong. Yeah, trust the gut.
I like to say intuition is actually the culmination of a lot of knowledge gain over a period of time, like years, in which case makes it very trustworthy.
Exactly. And you know that you hear those sayings about the subconscious mind always knows the answer. I feel that is very heavily linked to intuition.
Yeah. With you being a leader of teams, brands, and movements, and as we've spoken about, often through immense uncertainty, I want to talk about your leadership now. How do you personally lead through change and challenge?
I think the biggest thing is, and this is one of the big things that I learned when I was in that sort of stuck phase during COVID and going through learning to fly phase, it's realizing that my energy is what sets the tone. And if I'm getting in that flustered or can't see clarity space, it's just to remind myself, if I'm flustered and I'm stressed and I'm not calm and I'm not being rational, that's not helpful to anybody, not to myself, not to my team, not to the business. And so I look at the way that I lead and I really try and reset and start with emotional regulation. That's my starting point when something's, whoa, holy shit, how do we deal with this? And then I look to, okay, let's have a look at what this challenge or this disruption or this problem, whatever it is, or threat might be. And how do we put a different lens on that and look at it as being more of an invitation? Like, what is possible here? And just again, it's about just reframing that headspace, not just being in that deer in the headlights moment and stuck in this panic, negative, can't see through fog, but getting to that, let's look at it differently, take a breath, and let's revisit. It's not that instant. You do have to go through the emotional process of the outrage and the anger and the what the before you can get back on top
Let
of
it
that
out.
emotion. I'm not saying that I can skip that because I certainly can't, but I do know that I
Yeah.
can't decision in that state. I have to regulate the emotions. So I look at it that way and I try to anchor whatever the problem is to curiosity. I'm an incredibly curious person. My brand is incredibly curious. Everything that we do is around curiosity. And so I try and look at whatever the challenge is as to what is this actually teaching me? What am I going to learn from dealing with this as opposed to why is this happening to me? They're two main questions phrased in two very different mindsets attached to them. And for me, I've always been very vocal with my team around getting their collaboration with any sort of challenge when it's appropriate. Obviously, not everything is terrible. But for me, I don't know everything and I don't pretend that I know everything. And I always value different perspectives because people have different experiences to me. They have different trainings, they have different backgrounds and different opinions. And for me to allow the team to be part of that, I believe that's empowering for them. It's also teaching me to look at things differently as well. And also to it just brings in other intelligent thoughts. And it's just a more collaborative approach to as opposed to trying to figure something out on your own. And also just wanting them to know that it's okay not to have an answer for everything and to embrace.
Yeah. And I guess in that situation too, and leading by example and strengthens the team as a whole.
Yeah, and I also believe that sharing a certain level, not everything, but sharing a certain level of vulnerability also is very beneficial for a team to know that they can do the same.
Exactly. Yeah. What's been your proudest moment as a founder and leader?
I guess this changes all the time. The overarching,
What is it today?
it changes every year. Every year we do something amazing. But no, the overarching one, the proudest thing is my team. The service that we deliver. I know that service is such a rubbish thing in our industry at the moment. And proudest thing is just how incredible my team are with how they serve our customers, our travel advisors, the knowledge, the time they give, the passion, everything that I mentioned earlier on is just woven into our team culture. But there's nothing transactional about what we do. And I think that this is one of the reasons why we do have this incredible retention rate with our customers. We do have this incredible repeat word of mouth referral type business. That's a consistent proud moment in terms of stamping iconic proud moments for us. This year, it was the Mongolian Golden Eagle Festival tour. It was the biggest volume of passengers had, and not that it was anything to do with being about scale, but it was about the opportunity that we gave 60 families that had never been involved in tourism before, income that they now had, enough for over a month that could sustain them for 12 months. That we've never done anything on that scale before. And I was there on the ground when that was unfolding in September. And I literally cried when we drove in. It was just been talking about it for 2.5 years, knowing this year was going to be the biggest. And to see it was just, I'm getting teary now. It's just amazing. Yeah, that's the big punch one for this year.
Yeah. I think you being on the ground and the founders tours that you run every year is something that's really special. It's everything we've talked about so far. And then you are personally taking it to the next level. So to wrap us up, why don't you tell us a bit about your founders tour and why you created such an intimate experience for the Crooked Compass community?
Sure. So for context, our founders tours are a tour that operate once a year. They're personally hosted by me and they are they're about many different things, but they're about an elevation over what we normally do at Crooked Compass. They go above and beyond what we normally do. And that's intentional because they're people who are intentionally choosing to want to travel with me because they're curious about the impact that we make when we travel. And so they get to see not, of course, just the destination that we go to, but beyond that, they get to see how we build our products with our local partners, how those communities and those collaborations work, how we bring that journey to life, how it benefits them both economically, educationally, and beyond. They see firsthand the responsibility and the intention behind every single detail that goes into what we build. And on top of that, they're with myself. So interestingly, this year's founders tour, most of the people that were on there were all business owners. So there was a lot of conversation around entrepreneurialism, and they're seeing this on the ground as we're doing that with the local communities. They're asking questions about the business, about our ethos. They're seeing me guide, they're listening, they're learning. And it's not that this is a tour about me at all, but it's the journey with me as to why I started this business, how it's got to where it is. And we bring in these elevated experiences that are just so far above and beyond what we would do in a regular Crooked Compass tour. And these itineraries are also one-off, never to be repeated as well. So we really do go outside the box. For example, 2026, we've got permits to a rocket launch in Kazakhstan, and we'll never do anything like that again. So it's got this hook to it, but it's a way of grounding Crooked Compass community. And it's just a way of doing it in a way that's much more personal, but present, and yet really profound at the same time.
Yeah, it's no wonder they book out almost before you've properly released them.
It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. I knew it would be a delightful conversation, but so many golden nuggets for myself and everybody else who's listening in the travel space. Definitely one of those trailblazer founders. It's definitely a privilege to be able to work with you and podcast with you. So thank you again. We should let people know how can they get in touch or see what Crooked Compass or Crooked Compass by Air is all about.
Yeah, sure. So both brands have their own website. So Crooked Compass is www.crooked-compass.com. That is our small group tours and private tours to your more obscure, lesser known international destinations. And then Crooked Compass by Air is literally crookedcompassbyair.com. And that is our private touring around Australia by private aircraft. Beyond that, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're on all of them. If you search either of the tour names, they'll come up.
Awesome. Incredible. Thank you again for joining me. And for anybody that enjoyed this conversation, subscribe to Marketing Made Iconic and share it with a friend. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.